I recently got my hands on this Vortex Crossfire spotting scope. At first I'd been reading about it online and came across a bunch of mixed reviews, so I figured I'd give it a go myself and see how it really performs. And what better place than here in New England in September, with the cloudy skies, a bit of mist in the air, low light fading in the late afternoon, and those atmospheric ocean views. It was an ideal setup to see how the scope handles in some challenging conditions. The Crossfire series is Vortex's most budget-friendly spotting scope, starting at around $200. The one I'm testing, the 20-60x80 model, is priced at $300. You'll find links to the full range of Vortex scopes in the video description. Well, in this video I'll walk you through its features and highlights, and we'll see how it performs at crazy long distances and tricky ocean conditions. We've got a great mix of lighthouses and ships to check out today, so let's dive in and welcome back to Sports and Gadgets. Well, the Crossfire I'm using has a zoom range from 80 to 60 times, which is the highest in the series, and this means it can make objects appear 20 to 60 times closer. It's got an 80mm objective lens, so it lets in a lot of light. This comes in really useful when you're trying to spot something at a distance, especially in lower light conditions. Now, let me tell you about this lighthouse we spotted. We were at Castle Hill Lighthouse in Rhode Island, scanning the horizon through the scope. Then, way off in the distance, we noticed another one. And after checking the map, we figured out it was Point Judith Lighthouse, also here in Rhode Island. And here is the mind-blowing part. It was 9 miles away. That's about 15 kilometers. Without the scope, we had no idea it was even there. With the naked eye, all you can see is just a faint blinking light. So when I zoom in to 20 times, you can make out the silhouette of the lighthouse. You can't see any details clearly yet, but it's clear enough to recognize the shape and the blinking light at the top. Then, when I increase the zoom to 60 times, the details start to appear. You can clearly see the buildings around the lighthouse. You can count them and even notice the outlines of windows and rooftops. And keep in mind, this is in foggy, low light conditions around 6 in the evening, and we're looking at something that's 9 miles away. That's incredibly impressive. And now let me tell you about the most surprising thing we spotted through this scope. As we were scanning the horizon, we didn't notice it right away, but eventually another lighthouse came into view. It was barely visible even at max zoom. We could make out the faint outline of a tall, thin structure rising above the ground with the light shining at the top. But the thing is, there are a few lighthouses in that direction. After doing some research, we figured it might be the southeast lighthouse on Block Island, which is about 24 miles away. That's about 38 kilometers. But something about the shape didn't quite match up with the lighthouse we saw. There were no large ships or stations nearby, and Block Island seemed like the only possibility. Most likely it was a modern navigation tower, a New Age lighthouse. And if any of you know whether that's possible or have a better idea of what we might have seen, please let us know in the comments. That's extremely interesting. Then we were scanning the ocean with a scope from Beaver Tail Lighthouse in Rhode Island and spotted a group of ships way out in the horizon. To figure out how far they were, I used this app that tracks ships in real time, showing their exact location. Turns out they were about 9 miles or 15 kilometers from the shore. You can see our location on the map here at Beaver Tail Lighthouse and the ships all the way out there. With the naked eye, we could barely make out some of the bigger ships, just as tiny gray dots on the horizon, and a few could only be spotted through the scope. Given the distance, the foggy weather, and the low evening light, it's impressive how much we were able to see through the scope. You can clearly read the text on the ships, see the cranes they're carrying, and even the overall structure of the ships, right down to some of the cargo on board. This specific ship, Anne Sophie, a general cargo vessel from Germany. Based on its location, it's about 9 miles from our position at Beaver Tail Lighthouse. That's roughly 15 kilometers. Through the Crossfire, you can see the entire ship, the cranes on deck, the sail log on the side, and even parts of the cargo. When speeding up the footage, you can actually notice that several large cylindrical components are slowly rotating. These appear to be turbine parts, possibly for wind energy installations or other industrial machinery. It's incredible how clearly you can make out the equipment on board, especially considering the distance and the foggy conditions. Next up, we're looking at two different ships. The huge one is the Binocular 2, a massive construction vessel registered in Cyprus. It's like a floating platform towering over the water with its huge crane sticking way up. Right next to it is the Sovereign, a smaller tugboat from Belgium. And this view is from almost 10 miles away, or about 16 kilometers. Even at that distance, the level of details we're seeing is impressive. Here is another vessel called Meredith Renoir. It's a pusher-tug pulling another load, and it's even further out than the previous ships. We're seeing it from 12 miles away. That's around 19 kilometers. Even from that far, the Crossfire gives us a clear view of the ship's outline and some of its details. Up next, we've got the Eco Edison. It's sitting around 10 miles from us, which is roughly 16 kilometers. Despite its relatively small size, we can still clearly read the Ørsted logo on its side through the scope. What we see here is a solid demonstration of the Crossfire's capabilities, giving us a clear understanding of how it performs in real-world, challenging conditions with distant moving objects. So what makes this performance possible? First of all, it comes down to Vortex's commitment to quality, even in their budget-friendly options, giving them a premium feel. So the Crossfire features what Vortex calls a high-definition optical system, which means it uses high-quality glass and coatings to make what you see through it clearer and brighter. Cheap scopes often rely on lower-quality glass, resulting in dull, blurry image with distorted colors. In contrast, the Vortex HD system uses fully multi-coated lenses to reduce glare and maximize light transmission. So you'll see plenty of details, colors will look more natural and true to life, and you'll get outstanding brightness even in low light. The zoom range is a major highlight, allowing you to see fine details from far away. This makes it a great choice for nature observation, hunting, and long-distance shooting. At 20 times magnification, you get a wide field of view, perfect for scanning large areas like open landscapes or forests. As you zoom it towards 60 times, the scope lets you pick out finer details, like the feathers on a distant bird or the grouping of your shots on a long-range target. Another thing that really impressed me was how well the scope picked up distant birds. There were seagulls far out, so far that you couldn't see them with the naked eye. They were at least a few miles away, but through the scope they were crystal clear. I could watch them hunting for fish and swooping down over the water. The clarity was amazing, and for any hunters out there, this scope isn't just for landscapes, it's perfect for tracking animals at long distances, even in tough conditions. Whether you are scouting or keeping an eye on game, you'll be able to see them clearly even from miles away. The zooming ring turns smoothly to change magnification, and when the distance changes, the central focus wheel helps you quickly sharpen the image. The Crossfire is built to handle tough conditions. It's waterproof and fog-proof. Its body is tightly sealed to prevent water from getting inside, even in heavy rain or wet conditions, so you don't have to worry about moisture damaging the internal components. Plus, the scope won't fog up internally when you move between different temperatures or humidity levels. One super handy feature is the built-in thread for standard tripods, so you can easily mount it on any tripod. The Crossfire HD isn't just about the price, it's about what you're actually getting for that price. It gets the job done exceptionally well. It's durable, easy to use, and has great optical performance with the clarity and details it offers at extremely long distances. It's a solid tool for anyone who needs reliable optics without paying too much. I'm genuinely impressed. But what about you? Share your thoughts and experience in the comments, and I hope this video was helpful. Thanks for watching, stay tuned, and see you in the next one.